Hello everyone, and welcome back. Now I'm back in the commentator booth and not a player. And we have a great race here between Bobies and Ryan in the category All Cells Fragment. It's the newest category on the leaderboard of Will of the Wisps, and it has been greatly anticipated. I can't tell you how many times these players have raced each other in the last weeks, how many times they have trash talked each other, how many times they have talked about battling it out today. They have both PB'd by minutes at this point over their original routes and are ready to rumble. But one thing to preface. It is currently 2 a.m. for both our runners. It is also 2 a.m. for me. They both have done previous races, Bobies just now in the 2v2, and Ryan a bit earlier in the MQO race. So while the expectations are high, don't put them too high. We will try to do our best. Both our runners are tired. Yeah. But they will put on a great show regardless. They also just switched routes, so we'll see how that goes. But I wish them best of luck. I'm personally Team Ryan. You can post whoever you want. You can cheer for whoever you want. This is gonna be great, and I am excited for it. And we're gonna get started. So I'll tell the runners to ready up. And yeah, we'll talk about how they are the number 2 and 3 on the leaderboard. Because they just got overtaken by Skyfeld, who returned to the category for a few runs and just PB'd. But regardless, these players have pushed down their times to an extreme. They were both incredibly close to sub-hour. Bobies getting it just a smidge before Ryan, and we are into the run. And just like with any other Will of the Wisp speedrun, we first need to skip the prologue and then also the small cutscene afterwards. Now, similar to most other categories, we are also getting Spirit Light or Sentry. That is still the most focal point, and yeah. Let's explain what all cell fragments means. So you might notice, compared to Ori and the Blind Forest, where the category is just called all cells, it's called all cell fragments here. That has 2 reasons. One is, you don't want the confusion with another category that is shortened as AC, called all challenges, which is the umbrella term where MQO, for example, fits. And the other reason is that you don't get all health and energy fragments. Or cells rather. You only get the fragments, which are the collectibles in the world, but not the ones you obtain by getting a wisp. So that means that we don't need to get all the wisps. That specifically means we don't need to defeat Qualock, to defeat Mora. Yeah, we can just ignore those and do our own thing. So for now, as mentioned, fairly similar to other categories, we're getting the keystones to get to a region tree and use that. So we'll preserve our torch, not do the fight room at the bottom. And Bobies with a bit of trouble, where Ryan just managed to get that jump without much trouble. However, both these runners have their own strengths. Bobies is known for his late game, where Ryan is very consistent in his early. So we'll see how this plays out. And yeah. For now, Ryan in the lead can be the first to reach this tree. We can't reach the tree itself yet, but we can swim above it. Also very important to extinguish the torch there, because otherwise the game soft locked, because it can't handle 2 torches at the same time. So now we need a hold on the side of Ryan. And you will also notice another thing, that is that Bobies' timer will gradually get behind compared to Ryan's, due to just slower hardware, which is why we have the in-game timer for this game specifically. So let's see the forge movement on Ryan's side. 1 cycle and 2 seconds. Nicely done. Let's see how it goes on Bobies' side. Yeah, so another important thing to note about this category is that it is RTA optimized. That means we still use in-game timer, but most QTMs that just are, for example, for levers or pickup animations are not done. So this is to reduce the QTM amount because it can be quite annoying to watch it and to run it. And another thing is we stop the timer at the shriek defeat. So instead of doing the entire crawl section, it is as soon as shriek counts as defeated by the game, the timer stops. Ryan the first at sword at 3.5 minutes. And Bobies following right after. Nicely done by both of them. And I can see Team Ryan and Team Bobies in the chat. Perfect, perfect. That is what you want to see. So Bobies is like 25 seconds, maybe a bit more behind. 25-30 seconds. Ryan now the first to get towards double jump tree. We will see door skip by both players, and both are, yeah, fairly afraid of that trick. It is a very annoying trick, very precise to get, and you need to set up. And Ryan just recently switched his setup, so maybe not too familiar with the new version of going about it. But will probably be the first to get there as he just got double jump. And Bobies with the QTM after the sword tree. This is one of the allowed ones because it is faster to QTM this cutscene over watching it, which is why it is allowed. There are some more category specific rules that we will mention once they become relevant. For now, the QTM rule is probably the most important. And of course that this category is in the no out of bounds, or specifically no Ori out of bounds section. So we will not use any of those, nor menu glitches or any of that stuff. And Ryan is coming up to the door that is getting skipped. Nice visual bug there. Let's see how that goes. Gets the keystone. We will need that for later to be able to skip some slower keystone. So now needs to lure the mantis, reset his double jump. Didn't quite get it properly, so now needs to reset. And the way he switched up his setup was basically that he had a setup that relied on QTMing every attempt, but was faster overall if you go on the in-game time. But of course RTA, this is more viable because you don't need to return to the menu each time. So gets a second try, really nicely done, and gets one of the first cells of the run. We will see all of them as mentioned, and some fun facts include that there's exactly one cell fragment in Bowser's Reach, and it is behind the snowball that you let loose. So we're reaching that area, for exactly this one pickup, which, yeah, is definitely something that costs a bit of time, but we will also do it by the end of the run. Also, of course, important to note, since this is not an all challenge run or MQO run or something similar, we can just do things in whatever order. We don't need to care about when we get to coup, we don't need to care about when we get launch. So we have all the freedom in that regard. So one of the main objectives in the early game is just to get the skills as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, and mainly, of course, launch. And also, slight spoiler, we will not clean the water in this run. You will see later what that means. For now, Ryan is still ahead. We'll get to Sentry first. I did not quite see his Spirit Light count. We would need 400 Spirit Light for that first shopping spree we do. So he hopefully has the setup for it. He will also go for a trick to skip the first trick cutscene here. So let's see how that goes. He will pogo off of this and climb this side wall to get all the way above the cutscene trigger where Shriek flies across. And nicely done. This saves, I think, 3, 4, 5 seconds. And he had 2 Spirit Light left over. So let's see on Bobby's side. Bobby's side, Bobby will not go for this trick. It is fairly precise, and if you've never learned it, you probably shouldn't go for it. So yeah, 395 Spirit Light is looking good for him. On Ryan's side, you can see that we are now getting the bow to be able to go towards Qualax Hollow and towards Silent Woods. As mentioned, the right side and especially launch are our main objective. But he will be getting the bow first. And also, another fact is we will not drain Qualax Hollow. Now you might be wondering, if we don't drain Qualax Hollow, how are we gonna continue? And the solution to that is that the category... Oh, also Bobies is trying to go for this cutscene skip nicely. Nice. Didn't get it first try. Will go for it a second time. Probably just wants to show it off, which, fair enough. And gets it on the second attempt. Nicely done. So, to answer the question of why we can continue with bow without cleaning or getting the water down in Qualax Hollow, is that this category is only no Ori out of bounds. Other categories of this game disallow projectile out of bounds, but this category specifically doesn't. So, for example, the bow drop we do in MNG is allowed in this category, and that is how we get into Qualax Hollow. So we will see that, and of course we will still get dash, but we will not get anything done to the water there. And that means, of course, because there is no teleporter, so the only way to go back out is to do the swim again. So we will see both the down swim as well as the swim back up from both our runners, because it is mandatory in this category unless you want to drain the water. Which, if you just learn the category, is of course absolutely valid. Nice bow drop. First try on Ryan's side. Glitching out the bow on the first frame to go through the floor and allow us to get the teleporter now. I believe Bobies does it after going back up, but we will see it once we get there. So this cutscene is of course mandatory that Ryan is watching. Once you enter your first spirit well, this will play, and it is kind of independent of where that first spirit well is, but this is one of the first you will encounter, pretty much. Didn't quite get it. You need all the health for this, and he's using this nice trick where he jumps and uses regen on the same frame to be able to jump while using it, so he gets full HP even after hitting the spikes. Let's see how Bobies does it. It was like second try, still really great on this hard trick. So now we'll actually, hopefully he doesn't forget, need to activate the Spirit Trial. Because in this category we need Shuriken. Because as mentioned, we can go projectile out of bounds, and that means we can access Seer without getting all the other Wisps. And that is important, because in the Windtorn Ruins there's actually an energy cell fragment. So since that is the restriction of the category, we need to get that. And the only way to get there is of course by, well, getting the worm out of there. And instead of doing it the normal way, we're gonna do it a bit differently later. But we need that Spirit Light for that, as well as just some nice shards to upgrade. So, like Overcharge, for example, from other categories to reduce the energy we need, Reckless, Reckless upgrade specifically, and I think energy is also one some get. No, wing clip is the last one. So Ryan going up, and we will of course have the very important comparison of who has the better trial type. So I will try to pay attention to that. Oh. Ryan struggling a bit to get up here. No problem now. And Bobies following suit will follow. And in terms of PBs, I think Bobies is currently 30 seconds in the lead. I think it's 59-32 compared to a one flat or one almost flat 1 hour and 1 second. But now, nice trial action on Ryan's side. We will see trials showcased later. I believe the world record for this one specifically is around 12 seconds. 1686 on the side of Ryan, just as Bobies starts. So they are pretty much one trial apart from each other. But yeah, that is an easy 1,000 gold and has been rooted in for a quick money grab. Another energy cell fragment on the side of Ryan, and I did not see Bobies' time. That was too fast for my eyes. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was fairly similar to Ryan. They are, after all, fairly similar in their times of this category. Very nice wave bash on the side of Ryan as he makes his way into bash. And we're getting bash, and immediately after, or almost immediately after, we're doing a trick that disallows us from ever using bash again, called God mode. Now, if you were around for the first run of the day, the first live run of the day, you know what God mode is, but in case you weren't, it is a way to make Ori invincible to pretty much anything. And yeah, it specifically requires bash. And thanks for the track, aka Muffin, for the time of Bobies' trials, 1667. So Bobies was slightly faster. Is this an omen for the for how the race will end? We'll see. Bobies now getting the cutscene of the well, while Ryan is talking to the big frog. So one advantage of this category is, of course, that we don't need to kill Qualock. As mentioned, we don't need all the Wisps, so Qualock survives this category. So now we get into Glades. First, this cutscene of the Moki opening this wall to Glades. And as we are in Glades, we're going to pick up some of the stuff we want for later. Shards. I don't remember if Shuriken is here or not, picked up here or not. And we will also, with that one Gorlek ore we just acquired, build the Glades teleporter, as well as unlock the teleport anywhere ability. So that allows us to not only teleport on the wells itself, but also on the from everywhere pretty much. So that is what we need all that spirit light for. That helps a lot with backtracking, since this is a category that is fairly similar to 100% but not quite there. We need to do a lot of backtracking. Bobies trailing behind a bit, but as mentioned, his strong suit is definitely the late game, whereas Ryan has a bit of a better early game usually. So we will see how it works out. Bobies not quite getting the wave dash here to land on the other side. And Ryan, now done with Glades, will teleport to Marsh to do the bod mode trick. So similar to the Rio run earlier, he will go to the water next to Region Tree, try to drown in there, and as he drowns, he will try to bash. In this case, the one of the jumpers. I forgot their name. Also, on Bobies' side, nicely executed the cutscene skip. Normally, if you break that purple wall, the Gorlek in the glades will tell you, oh, hey, who tore down my wall? Both of them avoided that cutscene trigger very nicely. So well done. So yeah, on the side of Ryan, we will see the setup for this. And Ryan also introduced Bobies to an easier trick to set it up, which is literally just pushing it with sword until it is on the edge. It is a very easier setup than with the slimes used in Rio, so fairly approachable. And after that, the same problems of the Rio God mode apply, where you can't bash and you can't quit your menu. But in this case it isn't really a problem because this is an RTA optimized category. QTMing isn't quite as important, and we have sentry jumps, so bash is kind of nice, but not really mandatory. So Bobies now following suit. Yeah, Ryan starting some of the cleanup, and we will see the first instance of reverse braking. So with a sentry and shuriken, you can reverse break walls. If you place them correctly / aim them correctly, they will start attacking the backside of a wall, so you can attack and destroy them from the other side. And that is the first instance that we use it for, because it means that we don't need to spend those 2 keystones. So let's see on Bobies' side whether he can position the mantis correctly. And it looks like it. That looks like a good setup. So now, of course, avoiding Hornbuck. If you activate Hornbuck, it's actually faster to abandon challenge than to quit a menu, of course, because you need to set up God mode again. And the reason you need God mode is, well, we will never clean the water. So we will not be able to swim through water without taking damage. And since there are cell fragments in areas like pools and underwater pickups, we kind of need it. There is a bit of theorizing still around whether you actually need God mode to full clear pools. Current standing is still on the side of you need it because there isn't enough health around to do it without it. But yeah, there is potential rerouting happening in the future to make the route not use God mode. But yeah, this is one of the reasons currently God mode is used, is the swim, because it is fairly long, as you can see, and it is mandatory to get to the right side. So we will Ryan C go for this cutscene skip here, and oh no. Okay, he didn't activate the cutscene. I don't think it saved that much time. But it looked cool, interesting, that's for sure. In this case, it doesn't matter if he goes to the top or below. And one side effect of God mode is that you can do this. Because the water here doesn't instantly kill you, you can just like walk underneath it, I guess. And kind of acquire everything from there. So here he can use the keystone from Marsh that he picked up before on the keystone skip and continue onwards, kind of skipping this slow walk zone and approaching Q-skip and slightly using a different variant, getting it first try, really nice. This is of course the first part of Q-skip. There's a second part which we will get to by the end of Woods. But for now, the goal here is to pick every resource up that we can get, namely all the keystones and some of the cells that are here, as well as Gorlek ore. We haven't talked about Gorlek ore yet, because not only do we need it for that teleporter in Glades, also a nice cutscene skip by Bobies on the left, but we also need it because there is some cell, one exactly, behind a project in the Wellspring Glades. So we need a total of, I believe, 10 Gorlek ore to get there, because it is on the second Moki House project. which means we need to do the first one for 4 Gorlek ore as well as the second one for 6 Gorlek ore. So our routing includes those to make sure we can do that later on. So for now, they are picking up all the fast Gorlek ore, and Silent Woods has some of those. But both making quick work of this area. Bobies also absolutely didn't waste any time on Q-skip. And we will see how the second part of this trick goes. There's a slight route divergence, or at least was. I didn't pay full attention whether Bobies got the lower keystone. It has been timed recently by Scarfeld to be faster to take that keystone and skip the one in Oldwood instead by, I think, about 10 seconds. So potentially Bobies has changed his routing, but I think the keystone count just went to 0. And while I was talking, Ryan just did the second part of the Q-skip. We will need Q later to be able to gain access to Moldwood Depths and Bowers Reach, because both of these areas contain cells. But for now it is faster to go through this area without Q and just collect the cutscene where Q dies later. So unfortunately this is a category where Q dies, or at least isn't able to move for some time. But Ryan is the first into Waste. I will pay a bit of attention. So the cutscene starts at 23:50, so we can maybe time it a bit, the difference between the runners. So the objective here is to just get Burrow, so we can get to the launch tree. Bobies also nicely skipping the second part of the Q-skip, of the Q cutscenes. Ryan going through the area here, and Bobies, yeah, absolutely no problem staying in the air to not activate tree here. Nicely done. Okay, so Burrow is being acquired. Did get the cutscene skip. Nicely done. If you shoot a bow while you stand directly in the middle of the tree, you can kind of overlap the two animations. So as soon as you end your bow animation, you can move again. So that means you can teleport while you watch the tree animation and basically waste no time. So really nicely done, really precise trick, and gets it. And you only have one try because otherwise the game overlaps the inputs and you can't really do anything about it. Now this is another instance where you just need to remember that you don't want to bash, because these Gorlek on the side of Ryan have these shields that you normally bash behind. But since you have God mode, you can just walk through them and hit them from behind, the later ones. As Bobies, I didn't pay attention how much time difference they had, but it looks to be about a minute, maybe a bit less. Bobies didn't go for the cutscene skip. But yeah. Oh, was that just a bash? I think I just saw a bash. Oh no! Oh no, Ryan with the bash! Oh, that is a time loss of about 2 minutes. Because you need to set up God mode again, and we still need it for later parts of the run. Specifically pools. Oh, that is unfortunate. That is quite some substantial time loss. So hopefully for Bobies, he will not bash and not do the same mistake. Yeah, very unfortunate here. That really steers the game in favor of Bobies. That is a free 2-minute time save if he just doesn't bash. And yeah, I can totally understand why Ryan would do this. He just played MQO where you were legitimately bashing everywhere because of the category that doesn't use God mode in the optimal way. You can still play with God mode, but Ryan, being an excellent player of the category, doesn't need it. And it also means Bobies has caught up now, because Ryan has had some deaths that were fairly costly. And Bobies can ignore enemies. because of God mode, whereas Ryan has to be careful here. So what will probably happen is that right after launch 3, Ryan will get back into Marsh to deactivate, or rather reactivate the God mode. Didn't quite get the tree animation skip here either. But launch trees synchronized. That is fairly nice. Unfortunately, they are not synced at all. Yeah, and to reiterate, we need a total of 11 Golek, or in the beginning 1 to get the teleporter in Glades, and then another 10 for the second Moki houses, because there is a cell fragment in the second Moki houses. So that route needs to be important for the route. And yeah, we can see Ryan setting up for God mode again. Taking this left mantis and deciding not to bother with it afterwards, which is fair enough. So Bobies will be the first to enter Wellspring here, and yeah, Bobies was like, yeah, my PC won't have loading time, and I was like, okay, wait for this one, because this is notorious for loading, and we just saw it, and it interrupts your launch speed as well, so unfortunately this game is load dependent and is hardware dependent, and quite a bit at that. But we'll see. Ryan still setting up for God mode, but should get it. The setup looks pretty good, as Bobies is clearing the Wellspring. So the good thing about Wellspring is that there is only 2 cells, I believe, at the first floor of Wellspring. So we don't need to enter the second and third floor, which is one of the reasons why we don't ever clean the water. Because we don't have any incentive outside of cleaning the water to ever go up there. So Bobies will open the first floor here by destroying this blob and collect those 2 cells before heading into Numa pools. And again, we can't QTM currently, so we can't skip this cutscene. Normally this would be allowed to be skipped because it is faster RTA to just skip it. But since we can't return to menu because it would lose us our God mode, we have to watch this lore. And it is quite a nice lore to watch. And also means that we will probably have some synchronized lore. Not quite. Ryan is not quite yet at the entrance. Bobies will take the lower route. It is faster in this case to get to the 2 pickups. There's one at the top, an energy cell, and one where you need to lower the water to get to, and that is a health cell at the bottom of the first floor. And there's also a relatively easy way to check whether you have all the cells, which is at the end you just go to the main menu and see if you have 16 out of 20 in the runner's cases. Because the only wisp you get is the Voice of the Forest that we already acquired from Qualok. And that means 1 extra cell and 4 wisps that are missing. So that is why we have 16 out of 20 by the end. But now Bobies will use the invulnerability to get into Luma pools. And we will also start clearing out that area. So we will get Water Dash, because we actually need to in this category, even though we don't go to Qualok. Because there is this combat arena that is locking a health cell, and it's only opening up the health cell if you start the combat arena with Water Dash. And there is also, furthermore, a energy cell that is uniquely locked behind Water Dash around the tree area. Also, one fun thing about this category is that it can be played on patch 3, and patch 3 enables launch swaps, which is a speed tech that pretty much means you equip launch, you launch, and the first or just a few frames after you release it, you swap out the launch for another ability in the ability menu, and that preserves your launch speed. So that is what we're seeing Bobies do here, as Ryan is also in the dirty, dark water. You just kind of need to do this a few times to figure out where you need to go, but then it is fairly easy to get. Okay, now we head into Luma pools. As mentioned, we won't mess around with Qualock. We will just get all these cells that are available in this area and head back out. So we've pretty much reached the time of the run where it's just cleanup. And yeah, we'll see how it goes for both runs. And more Gorlek ore on the side of Bobies. And more loading, unfortunately. Also, one neat thing from randomizer, there, you might know the puzzle skip, or from other categories. We can't do that in this category because the puzzle skip requires dying. And yet again, we can't die in this category. Because we are currently in possession of God mode, and dying is impossible if you are invulnerable to everything. Another side effect of this is that these shooting fish, I don't know how to better describe it, actually can move through you, since you don't have a hitbox pretty much. And that means that we don't need to bash them, which would of course get rid of our God mode. So it is this self-containing cycle pretty much. So now we're just getting water dash, and also gonna make sure we get the 2 cells that are near that. One of them would require either bash or water dash to do, and since we can't use bash, we're gonna use it to get it after we get the water dash tree. And yeah, everyone in this game loves bubbles. To explain a bit on that, these bubbles totally interrupt your movement and are fairly obnoxious in their random pattern, and can truly annoy people, especially if they are going down fast. So maneuvering this room is actually fairly hard. Bobies, of course, making it look easy. But yeah, you can see if you just zap on one of them and it propulses you all the way up, that can be quite frustrating if it happens like 2 or 3 times in a row. But manages to avoid it, as Ryan is also approaching the same area, gonna pick up some keystones here. Has that leftover keystone from Woods, so can do a bit faster routing, where he puts in the 4 keystones already, and while the door is in the animation, puts in the 4th one. Gets the 4th one. Not put it in, it is already in the door. So Bobies on the left opened the way to the to this energy cell, as well as allowing to lower the water here, which allows us to get to the health cell to the right of this room. As Ryan is struggling a bit more with the bubbles. Yeah, another aspect of the category that I haven't really touched on yet is these pickup animations. As you may have noticed, every single cell fragment, every single Gorlek ore always gives you a text. And unlike the first game, you can't disable the UI, at least not on patches that are after patch 0. So that means that you want to kind of stack these pickup animations, so you only have to click through the text and wait for 2 seconds once instead of twice. And that has been happening because in the first game, the wait to get rid of these animations is 8 seconds, but in the second game it is 60 seconds, and staying in the air for 60 seconds is really hard. Also, important to mention on the side of Bobies here is that this area is notorious for just setting you out of bounds by water dashing into the wrong spot. And you can't really void here. You would have to either load a backup save or lose your invulnerability. Neither of these options are really good, so just making sure to not go out of bounds there can be quite hard. But Ryan is also approaching the combat room, so they are about one combat room apart from each other, which after a 37-minute run is still fairly close. So Bobies now approaching the waste area, going through there. Will soon show why exactly we allow the projectile out of bounds in this category, because it allows us to wrong break into Windhorn Ruins. That means we don't need to get all the other Wisps. So what we'll do here is we get the shuriken, and if we aim it correctly, it kind of passes through the door and only damages the back side without getting stuck on the front. So it is quite finicky, but with God mode we don't have to worry about the enemies here, and we can get to this area. So what will happen here is that we activate this cutscene that gives us sear and starts the worm, and then we jump over the worm. So that allows us to stay there, and then there's an instant death plane that will disappear after some time. Since we have God mode, that means we can just stand against it, against the death plane, and wait for it to disappear. So that is fairly easy to notice, actually. So Ryan also now going for the wrong break as we watch some lore on the left. Yeah, easily done. Can now activate the cutscene as well. So synchronized lore on both sides. Both are roughly half a cutscene apart. Bobies, of course, with a bit of a timer advantage due to having a slower PC and thus longer loading times. Also both chatting while waiting for the cutscene to end. This is the longest cutscene, I think, in the game that you have to watch. As mentioned, there is an energy cell right next to this statue, so they need to get rid of the worm to be able to exit it, because you need this floor that Ori just stood on Bobies' side to break. And that only happens once the worm passes through. So, as you can see, Bobies is standing against the invisible wall. That is that instant death plane. So, since he has God mode, he can just kind of stand against it. I'm not even sure if that's the instant death plane or whether that's just a micro ledge, but I think it is the death plane. Yes. Now can go through, and will continue all the way through Wastes, making sure to collect all the cells on the way. And it's actually harder than it might sound to actually remember all the cells, because there are quite a lot, and both these runners just had to switch up their split layout for the restream and might not see which area they are supposed to go to. So that can be quite tricky to navigate. But they have quite some practice, so I believe they are both able to do that. We're collecting this teleporter on the side of Bobies for easier access back into the ruins later, because, as mentioned, we still need to get that energy cell. Just getting the worm out of the way is only half the deal, so we need to prepare for that, and teleporters in this game are just incredibly valuable because of the teleport anywhere. And we can continue our way through Wastes. And another nice thing of invulnerability here is that we can just ignore cycles. There are these instant, or not instant death lasers, but these damaging lasers that normally push you back if you dash or burrow into them. But since we have the invulnerability, we can just burrow through them. And that means that we get to the pickups and to the end of Wastes much faster than we normally could. Ryan just opening the keystone door, also grabbing this spirit light while he waits on the door. I just love that about Ryan's running style, that he always finds something to do during the animations. That is just really neat to see. Oh, Bobies not quite getting the height from the launch swaps as he might have hoped to do. Will be the first to get to the Seer cutscene, and yeah, you just finished the escape by hitting the sand there, and then we just do the patient skip as we do in MQL. So both runners will just stand there awkwardly for 42.5 seconds, if I remember correctly, and after that teleport out, since we don't need the cells from getting Seer. So Ryan will follow suit in that, almost at the end of waste here, and can also get Seer here. We don't actually need Seer, as mentioned. The only reason we actually do this is to gain access to the energy cell that is in the runes. So that is what Bobies is gonna get next. Teleporting back to the teleporter we've acquired earlier and heading back into ruins. So that is a fairly quick trip because we have everything here. Also, yeah, Bobies PC has been running for a while, I think. This game, as pretty as it is, unfortunately uses a lot of RAM and other parts of your PC. But here is that one energy cell. And it has been gotten. So now it's truly just a matter of cleaning up some areas. There are some areas that we do specifically late because we don't have God mode anymore at that point, and there's, for example, poison water or some other restriction where we need a lot of health. We don't really need a lot of energy in most of the areas. Is Bobies aware of the Bobies pickup? That is the question. This is one pickup right next to the spawn that is that Bobies is kind of famous for because he just sometimes forgets that it exists. So we'll see. I think there's a bit of a route divergence here happening because Ryan is teleporting instantly into Marsh where Bobies just went, instead of going to a different area. Okay. Bobies now back in Marsh. Still not going left. I think that might be the route difference that they were kind of teasing right before the race. But not sure. Also aware of needing to skip this cutscene again, because even if you've already talked to over numerous times, it will still spawn if you ever hit the trigger there. And on the left we'll soon see the end of invulnerability. There is a mantis that you can either lure or just use bash to instantly get wherever you want. So now that we've bashed, we don't have invulnerability anymore. And yeah, that is the end of that. Ryan is also quickly approaching it, just getting the resources here on the way that he needs. And after that, we'll also do the same faster. So now Bobies is going to get the coup death cutscene to be able to get glide and flap. And this is another reason why we don't want to have invuln anymore at this point, because I think you can QTM some part of that cutscene to save a bunch of time. Not sure where exactly, we will see shortly, but you definitely want to not have invulnerability anymore. And luckily we don't actively get to see the whole cutscene. Oh, Ryan? I think Ryan might have gotten the bad version of the strict. No, never mind. He just menued so quickly I didn't even see it. But yeah, we actually get to see Herd Coup. Okay. Everything is well. So now we're in Hollow directly, and we can use that to go into the Moldwood Depths area directly, because it is nearby the Hollow area. So that is our next destination, and one of the reasons we do it so late is that we need a bunch of health, because there are 2 pickups in particular. One of them is locked behind a fairly long swim, and originally the route included Flash, but it has been found out that you can also do it without getting Flash by just water dashing into very specific spots to reset your lighting timer. So we will see that on both sides soon enough. As Bobies is the first into Moldwood Depths. Let's see how that area goes. I think there's a total of 4 cells in this area, as well as the last Gorlek ore we need. You can see Bobies is at 10 now. And yeah, the reason why we don't have invulnerability in Moldwood specifically has been showcased just on Ryan's side. There's a long cutscene for opening the Moldwood Depths, and you can skip that with a QTM, and hence you can't have invulnerability because it would just lose way too much time. But of course, if you want to play it safe and you're just learning the category, you can keep your invulnerability for this area and just play it safe. So now will actually be a scene where Ryan can save some time, because Bobies needs to get this keystone, because he didn't get the extra keystone all the way back in the woods, all the way when we went first through this area. And that means that he needs to get this second keystone and cannot just use his remaining ones to open the door. Also a nice, not quite ghost door, it's just the animation skip pretty much. And another loading zone, as Ryan, yeah, now has basically caught up. Because of that keystone time flip. So they are both approaching the things. Here we see another reverse break on the side of Bobies that Ryan will do shortly after. And after that, yeah, we're heading into the swim. We're just getting this health cell, and now we're trying not to take any damage because we need all the HP for the swim. It is a very precise swim, even with all the health that we have. You need to be very careful, and of course unequip your overcharge and your reckless, because those make you take more damage. So let's see, on the side of Bobies, needs to get this, oh god, that is very oh, it worked. Okay, that gave me 3 heart attacks watching. Let's see how it goes on Ryan's side. Gets the light refresh, gets the light refresh here. Doesn't get stuck anywhere. Nicely done. Both no problem at all with that. And now finally is the time for the Bobies pickup. So this pickup here on the left. Team left. I am personally a member of Team left. I went to the left when I first played the game. POW has been acquired, and both runners can cross this area off of their mines. So now the next order of operation is to rebuild the glades and get all the pickups here. So we need to get the second Moki houses. It is very important that both runners have talked to the Moki before, otherwise Brom wouldn't offer these houses. So they did that on their way to Wellspring. And now they're rebuilding the second houses, beelining there to get the, I believe it's an energy cell in that area, and be able to continue on. Also getting some more spirit light to be able to afford all the upgrades. And yes, it is an energy cell. And you can see we're approaching the end of the run. Bobies is now at 15 out of 16 energy and 14 out of 16 health. So yeah, getting this refresh and a water for health, and now going to pick up the last pickups. By the end of this we should be at 16 energy cells, because there's only one health fragment in Reach and one health fragment in Willow's End. So those are the last two we get as we approach the end of the run. Of course, also upgrading some shards, so we deal some more damage to Shriek, because fighting Shriek, and specifically also doing all the hearts, is very important. And yes, this is a very close race. They are within 30 seconds, 20 seconds probably of each other. With delay, probably more like 30 seconds. I really can't tell who's going to lose, but they have the same counts of cells, which is very good because it means neither of them has missed anything. And let me tell you, it is very easy to just forget something. Bobies trying for a cutscene skip here, was trying to go over this cutscene trigger, didn't quite get it, and that means Ryan has basically caught up at this point. Very interesting to see. Now, of course, that is insane considering Ryan had this massive time loss of needing to do God mode again. So yeah, a great way of making up all the time loss. And as mentioned before, we're only going into Reach for one specific health cell, which means we also don't get Grenade because we don't need it. It turns out that Sentry is enough to melt the ice here, and that is all we need to do to activate the snowball, which hides the energy, the health cell. So let's go. And of course we can bash, because we are not invulnerable anymore. And don't need to pay attention to that. Oh, Bobies kind of getting stuck here. Oh, stays alive, and Ryan has completely caught up now and taken the lead. Of course, with the stream delay is probably still 15 seconds behind. Or not stream delay, QTM delay. So, wow, 15 seconds of difference going into Willow. That is actually kind of insane. And Willow is still a really hard place, even though we have all these skills, even though we have all the health and energy we could ever ask for. That doesn't mean Willow is easy. There's still a lot of like minor time loss that can happen everywhere. And so we'll have to see who gets to have the better Willow, and then also subsequently who has the better Shriek RNG. Because this game actually has RNG in the final fight. So, wow. That is incredibly exciting. So, as mentioned before, we need to do all the hearts, as we can't go out of bounds as in other categories. So we need to clear all those hearts to get across the entry to the final fight. However, we don't need to do the bottom left heart proper, because the projectiles can go out of bounds, so that means we can position our sentries and we can use our shuriken to destroy this heart a bit quicker. This heart also hides the last fragment for the run. So now both runners should be at 16 and 16. And I think it is true for both runners, yes. I think it's just a visual bug that Ryan is missing a energy. We'll hopefully see that, because if he is actually missing a fragment, that would be fairly sad. They could not get the Willow teleporter when they first went to launch, because there's this big cutscene at the entrance of Willow that you really want to QTM, but since they were using God mode at that time, they couldn't do that. So that's why you don't do that, and backtracking isn't actually too bad because you don't need to do the elevator again. So now onto the so-called Quidditch heart, puzzle heart, dash puzzle heart. And hopefully both having great attempts at it. Let's go. Nice to see. Just to reiterate, Bobies is still slightly ahead, even though it might not look at it. If you if you look at the timer, Bobies is still ahead by like 10 seconds probably at this point. Just because he has the longer QTM times. I will check that time at the Burrow Heart as we get there at 57:05 and 56:45. So that is 20 seconds of difference. Bobies is pretty much 20 seconds ahead of Ryan right now. And there's only 3 more hearts to go. 3 more hearts and the final streak fight. Wow, this is amazing, especially because of the map game, where Ryan had a bit of problems with the God mode, needing to get it back. So let's see. This heart is arguably one of the harder ones. Also, I was lying, there's 4 hearts left. This is one of the harder hearts and you need to pay attention about your cycles. But luckily we have a ton of health and energy to our heart's contents. Wow, synchronized animations here. If the timers were equal, that would be insane. But even with this tiny delay of what, 20 seconds or 30 seconds, 25 seconds probably, still absolutely incredible to see after a 1 hour run. So let's see this Willowstone. We have this chariot called Wingfoot that deals extra damage towards all flying enemies. And did you know that flying stones are flying enemies, but big angry birds are not? Yeah, I don't know either. So the fun thing about this is that Trick doesn't count as a flying enemy, so that Shard doesn't deal extra damage against her, but it does deal extra damage against this mini-boss, and that is the sole reason we get it, because it makes this fight so much faster, and getting the Spirit Light on the way is basically free. Yeah, and RNG is indeed gonna play a big role in this. One bad phase could make all the difference here. Wow, absolutely amazing. You can just see it, like the animations are basically synced. Ryan's timer is a bit behind Bobies, so, or a bit ahead of Bobies rather. Wow, this is so much action happening right now. Hopefully they can keep it this close, and hopefully it's not gonna be decided by Shriek Energy. That just feels bad. That just feels bad for the runners, and honestly also for the viewers. Okay. As they finish the last heart, they have a difference of, yeah, just about 20 seconds. So that will probably stay the same for entering the fight as well, unless one of them now has major problems. And yeah, we are entering the final fight here. Let's see how that trick goes for both runners. Very good use of Shuriken and Sword in the first race. Yes, one cycling freak on the side of Ryan. Let's see if Bobies can keep up with that. Yes, can keep up with that. So Bobies still in the lead. Didn't change just yet. It comes down to execution in the final, fight. What can I say? Let's go. Both runners using the launch slots to gain a bit more speed. And hopefully both have good RNG. I just hope that for both of them. I don't even care who wins at this point. This is incredibly cool to watch. Wow, similar attack patterns for Shriek here. As we get... But Bobies getting a bit more damage in, I feel like. Oh, but getting the worse attack here. Ryan will have more ability to damage Shriek, but Bobies now can damage her as well. This is a very good attack to get her down to the final HP and gets it. So Bobies ahead now on the board as well. Ryan also got her down to the last phase. Wow, amazing. And as we approach this final part of the game, hopefully they can both one-cycle it. Yeah, it wasn't quite all the same patterns, but it was fairly close, which is great. And that is GG for Bobies and time. And Ryan finishing about 30 seconds later. Wow, GG, both runners, excellent job. Dang, what a close race. And imagine Ryan just lost to him losing God mode to one single bash. Dang, GG to both runners. What a close race. Yeah, that was the last race of today, and wow, what a race. What a race it has been. Let me just look at the schedule. Wow, that was way too much action for 3 AM. So close. Okay, so upcoming in the schedule, we have the Open Book Seed Challenge Showcase. So that will be done by Clean and Muffin. And hopefully, I haven't seen the Open Book Seed at all. Hopefully that will also be super hype, because after this, more hype, I'm here for it. After that, we will see a close out with some pre-recorded stuff that is nonetheless very exciting. We have some trials showcase with some excellent runners that go over how they do it. That is recorded by OG. We then have the 100% Blind Forest World Record by Koala. That is unfortunately not commentated, as well as no Spirit Light, no Gorlek Ore, no Cells, and no Spirit Light by Wild Rise. I am not sure if that is commentated or not, but it will be a blast either way, so yeah. GG again to both runners, and we'll go into a quick intermission.